Hi, everyone. Hi, Warren.
Hi, what's up, everybody?
So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be talking about something really cool, hot topic of the moment, I'd say. So I'm Tatiana Hoffman. I am a product manager at Adjust. And for those of you who don't know what Adjust is, we're a mobile measurement, fraud prevention, and cybersecurity company. And I'm here with Warren Woodward.
Yeah, Warren from Upptic. We're a young company. We are in the space of growth services and tools for growth automation. So we basically have a team that supplements developers' internal resources so they can grow their apps in a profitable way through creative development, user acquisition, and data science. And then we're building internal tools that we use for our developers, but then also make those tools available for everyone else.
All right. So as you guys know by the title, we are going to be talking about UA automation, but really just, high level, how to get started, right? What are the first steps that you should take, what you should consider? But before we get to that, I guess, Warren, if you could give us a little bit of your background, where you came from and how you became a UA manager and all that.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe before we get into it, we could ask the audience a question. So, we usually, when our team tries to figure out what we want to automate, we're like, what's really stupid that we're doing right now? Like, what is a big waste of time and we wish that we weren't doing? So, I don't know. Maybe anyone want to volunteer something that you have to do day to day that just is mind-numbing? You wish you didn't have to do. You'd like to remove from your job.
This is your time to vent. What do you hate about your job?
Anyone? Anybody want to vent?
What was that? Creative management, A/B testing, reporting, yeah?
Making automated reports.
Making reports,
Yeah, that's a good one.
I started as account manager at Just, so I know our clients, pain points. I know what they waste the most time on it. So, Warren.
Yeah, for sure. So, part of what we want to do today is basically show that getting started in automation does not have to be intimidating. You do not need a technical background. I personally have a very non-technical background. I went to film school. I was doing indie film production, and then being in very unsuccessful touring bands and just being really broke, basically. So,
what was your band's name?
Let's not talk about that. But some Googling can maybe yield rewards there. But anyway, I got into growth marketing just to kind of side hustle and pay my rent, and started kind of working as a one-man agency. Getting paid for performance and doing media buys on my own, basically needing to do it in such a way where I spent less money than the money I made for the client. So it was very painful to learn that, which means you learn quickly when you're using your own money and doing media buys off your own credit card. But it also made me quickly realize there's only so much that I can do on my own. So that's kind of what got me first interested in automation, but I didn't really have a technical background. So I came into it kind of thinking okay, well, I don't really know how most of this stuff works. I'm not an engineer. How can I start exploring this? And that started a 10-year journey that has got me to where I am today, where I get to work with a lot of people that are much smarter than me to build tools for automation.
So this is to show you that UA managers are much cooler than people think, okay? So now talking about UA automation, right? So if you Google it, it's so overwhelming, the amount of information that you get. And, there's myths around it. But for you, what is the definition? What is the main purpose of UA automation?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the things we want to demystify, right? I'm sure anyone in the UA space, at least once a day, you get pitched some sort of product with a machine learning algorithm that's going to change your life and is very black boxy. That's not what automation has to be. It can be as simple as automating a report that takes a lot of time to build every day. Simplifying that process, giving you those minutes back. It can be as simple as taking the rules that you use to optimize an ad network to bring it to profitability, writing that down in a spreadsheet, and then executing those rules in an automated way, running a simple process rather than a human having to review and making a bunch of adjustments. So it really doesn't, you can start in a very simple place. And that's why I say just think about what's wasting your time and look at where maybe you can build something relatively simple that you don't need a team of engineers, but you can start getting those wins there. And then you get the fire for it when you get those early wins, and then you start dreaming bigger and bigger and kind of go down that automated path.
And still talking about Googling, right? What's UA automation? You do see a lot of solutions being proposed out there. Ad networks having their own automated solution. So why would anyone want to build their own in-house solution? Spend the time, possibly a lot of money. What's the point?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So, like, if you're from the UA space, you're kind of trained to like follow the money. And one thing to think about anytime that you're leveraging, say that there's an ad network that's like, oh, actually, we have this algorithm that's going to optimize your campaigns for you. You don't even need to look at them. Like, think about who owns the algorithm, who owns the methodology, and what the goals of that partner in the space are. So if you were to design a buying algorithm for your own business, like it would probably be focused on something like maximizing the profitability of your ad campaigns, spending the least and getting the most. But that's very different if you're the party that's selling the inventory. If you are selling the ad inventory, obviously if you're building an algorithm, like first and foremost, it's going to try to sell the inventory for the most it can. So if you start looking at things through that lens, you can start seeing why it's important to have some ownership of that methodology, of those systems, rather than trusting completely the party selling the inventory.
Would you think it's maybe a good starting point for those that are completely new to the space? Or?
I'd say it's probably like a mid-level starting point. Like if you're thinking about, you don't have to go straight from zero to the quote unquote machine learning algorithm. I'd start by if you want to automate parts of your UA buying process, like we mentioned earlier, just have your UA manager okay, you're saying that you're optimizing campaign. What are you actually doing? Can you just write that out in a paragraph, as if you were training a new employee? And then the next step of that is it's probably going to be something like, oh, well, I'm blocking sub-publishers with bad retention, or I'm bidding up placements where the ROI is greater than our goal. And you can start writing that down into a simple set of rules. And just doing those rules is kind of like your first step into automating that part of the process. You can maybe make those rules universal across your team, so you get similar results from different employees, even those that are less senior. And then you can start thinking about, cool, now how do we automate this? How can we maybe partner with some of our friends in the BI team, or advocate to get us part of a quarter of an engineer's time per month to build out a simple workflow, so we can actually execute these things that we've codified in a simple spreadsheet, and to run a process by connecting to the ad network, or just simply one intermediary step that we like to do. I'm looking at our data scientist over here, Shalan, that's done a lot of this single-handedly, is just enact a set of rules by downloading a CSV, running a Python script in our case, and then you just get the output, which you can upload to an ad network. So that's something that's done. We're an 8-person company. We're not giant, and most of us aren't from a technical discipline. It's a very varied team. But that's something that's maybe saved us 80% of the time in running our ad optimizations per week. Very low engineering required. Very small amount of actual portion of tech within the company.
So now going back to your background and your experience, I just want to have an idea. What was the moment that you just realized that, all right, I need some help here if I want to keep, scaling my UA efforts? How was that? And then what was your next step?
Yeah, I guess it's when I started getting worse. So when you kind of crack the code for doing profitable growth at a small scale, you're like, cool, I want to do more, I want to do more. But without any sort of automation, at a certain point, you just are spending less time executing the tasks, and things start slipping through your fingers. So it was maybe 2 years into my career where I just realized I can't actually do any more without doing a worse job, unless I figure out some way to partner with other people with complementary disciplines, or to license technology, which is another point I want to really drive home. You don't even have to build this. Some of it is just identifying the need, and then identifying maybe a provider in the space that you can work with. We work with platforms historically I've worked with platforms like Singular. Currently we utilize Acquire.io from Adjust to do some of the data aggregation piece. You can also just license an algorithm that's made by a third party. There's some good ones out there that I can happy to refer people to if they connect to me, but really it's just identify the goal and then figure out if it's buy or build. But yeah, the breaking point is basically when you realize you can't do anything else greater as a human without spreading yourself thinner, which isn't really a tenable way to scale your business.
Right. And then I guess, because like I said, it could be such an overwhelming process. You just frozen, you don't even know where to begin. So maybe if you can share a little bit more about what was your life pre, and then post automation. You mentioned something about saving 80%, right, of the time now on certain tasks. Anything else you can just give us as an example of what was improved and the benefits that you saw?
It was ridiculously stressful. I think that's the main thing. Like, it was to the point where, anyone who's ambitious wants to keep growing their career and the scale of things they're doing. But like, UA never sleeps. Like, your campaigns are always on. And before I got heavier into the automation space, like, it was to the point where it was like taking like physical toll on my body. Like, I actually like hospitalized myself like from like stress related stuff at some point in the process. And it's amazing, like, going from that, like, it's a game of inches, but like going from that to a place where you kind of build systems you trust that carry like, that grunt workload that's just eating hours out of your day. So I think that's the main like quality of life improvement, is like the lowering of stress, but also just being able to refocus your time to work more closely with your product team, with the other disciplines in your company, rather than just sort of like grinding it out with blinders on, executing optimizations, which I don't think is what anyone really aspires to in their career.
Right. So for those of the people here in the audience that want to get started, right? Can you maybe guide us through what the first steps were for you, at least, and what you recommend? So are there any prerequisites, because I don't think, is this for everyone? Is there a right time for you to start testing that? Any sort of guidelines you can
Yeah,
give
for
us?
sure. I'd say like, it's always good to start with a brainstorming session. Basically, like, ask your team the same question we started with here. Like, what is eating up your time? Like, what are you doing that's not making you happy, that doesn't make you feel like you're growing in your own career? What's repetitive? And have that brainstorming session. You'll probably come up with like, 30 different things. And then start thinking about like, okay, well, what's going to be the easiest thing to do? So there's really like 3 steps if you want to automate something. One is like, identify a need. Number 2 is identify the infrastructure you need, which in most cases is just a set of data. Like, what is the data we need? How can we get that data in a usable format? And once you have that foundation, you just need to figure out the means of execution. Sometimes that means you're licensing a product that can do that thing for you with your data set. And sometimes it means that you are building something. And building something can mean anything, from a spreadsheet to like a full like standalone product. And there's like the gamut in between. So identify the need, identify the infrastructure, and then figure out the means of execution.
And what about, let's say you're a newbie, right, for UA automation? Do you have any recommendations in terms of partners you can use that would be, let's say, in a safe zone, types of campaigns, anything like that you need to worry about? Or no, it's kind of, you can just go with your normal schedule, like run your normal campaigns. Are there any changes that you need to make to your strategy?
Yeah, I think where you want to start is just by looking at anything that if you're doing it in a spreadsheet, it's probably a good candidate to start there, to remove that process. Like, we always talk about, like, this spreadsheets are our enemies. Like, anytime we're doing something in a spreadsheet day to day, like, that's a candidate for automation. So, a lot of our needs in UA, there's a bunch of companies with the same needs trying to work towards the same goals. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Once you identify that need, like, see if there's a provider in the market that's a good fit for that. Do the buy versus build math. It depends on your scale as a company and like your internal resources, and start from there. So the 2 places that we usually start, or I have started historically, one is on the reporting side, and the other is on the optimization side. Those tend to be the 2 most redundant tasks in the type of roles that I've had historically.
Right, makes sense. And then just if you can share about your, personal experience when you had something in, right, your perfect solution. How did you know it was working for you? So what do you use in order to validate whatever solution you have in place when it comes to automation?
Yeah, actually, this just came up yesterday. So this is like, since me and you last spoke. So we learned sort of like through the grapevine that like a new major hyper casual app had like emerged in the app ecosystem. And at first we're like, oh crap, like this launched recently. I don't think we ran our automation process since this launched. Are we gonna have a bunch of like bad inventory that's coming through our campaigns? Like, is this gonna have a negative effect? And we went through and we audited it and we're like, oh wait, no, actually, no, we ran our process. It detected that there was this low quality publisher. And even though a lot of the rest of the industry might have been catching this low quality inventory, like just having this process in place, we didn't need a human to notice that like this new low quality publisher had emerged on ad networks. Like the system just took care of it. And we didn't even realize till after the fact. So those kind of small wins can be like really gratifying. And we were able to have normal weekends. Like we didn't have to like log in every day, check the stats to make sure that the campaigns were okay.
And anything else you can think of, maybe from your previous company, because you were previously at Nexon, anything from there that you can share with us here that would be helpful to have in mind once you, in that process of validating, the solution that you have?
Yeah, I guess one thing we didn't touch on that is often overlooked in companies is just like, is your data clean? It's like the most basic question, and I think most companies tend to assume their data is much cleaner than it is. Like, and it's worth really driving home. Everything we talked about falls apart if your data is not good. So, like other things we talked about, you can start very simple for data governance. Like one area that is usually overlooked in most companies is just like, are you comparing what the app stores paid you to what you think you got paid, like what your attribution is reporting? Like you don't need to build out a hugely technical process to start auditing this. You can just like have someone in QA like log into a spreadsheet once a week and like let you know if something is out of line. So you do need to put that first line of defense of some basic data governance. And this is not unique to automation. Even if you're doing like manual UA, like you still need clean data.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think a clean data is the foundation for everything, right? If you're running things in a more manual fashion or automated, yeah. But it must be really hard, right? Because I guess that would be, because I mentioned like the prerequisites, but I guess that would be one of it, right? Just make sure your data is where you want it to be, and then so you can start considering moving to the next step.
Correct, yeah. Start with clean data, then figure out a means of implementing your systems, either through acquiring tools or through someone in-house building it.
And like I mentioned at the beginning, there's some myths around UA automation, so maybe you can help me demystify a little bit of them. I don't know if you have the answers, but some people say it's too costly, it's too technical, it's time-consuming. What do you have to say about that, based on your experience? Does it have to be, I guess?
Sure. I think maybe one of the biggest myths is that you need an engineering resource within your team to get started. You can start. I think we're kind of like beating a dead horse with this, but like you don't have to be an engineer or have an engineering team to be started. Anything that you're trying to automate, like think about like the ideal state of that, but also just think of like, well, how could we solve this if we only just devoted like an hour of work to this project? What's the most simple solution? So a lot of people talk themselves out of taking on a project because they want it to be the perfect version of something. And they say, okay, well, maybe we identified something that will be helpful. We can do that in Q3 once like our engineering team finishes up, these other projects. So be okay with like a working solution, if it can let you save maybe that first half of your time. And then worry about the refinement later on once you prototype that system and realize its initial gains.
And now looking to the future, what's in your wish list in terms of like, for solutions to be offered, certain functionalities when it comes to UA automation? What do you think it's still maybe not available, or maybe it is, but in the limited version? Yeah,
for sure. So, I mean, that's really our whole goal as a company. We just try to be a bit of a science lab with our growth services team. And then like if there's a great solution for something on the market, cool, great, we'll use that thing. And we try to identify where there's not a great solution. And for our own benefits and for our studios, then we start going to work in our lab trying to build solutions for that. So obviously, we thought one interesting area for further automation was App Store optimization. There's only a few kind of valid solutions and tools on the market for that. And we thought that we could find a way to like add some additional automation functionality to automate the like split testing process, combining elements. I think the world of creative in general like tends to be, considered removed from automation. And being of a creative background myself, I have some bias here. Like I don't necessarily think the machines are going to birth great ideas, but I think they can be like amazing loops for feedback and iteration. So I'm very excited to see like how automation can have a healthy relationship with creative in all capacities moving forward as well.
And I guess that's also the human aspect of it, right? Because people think that automation equals to just reducing your staff, right? Or just letting the machine run everything. But I guess that's one component that...
Right. Yeah, like UA is complicated in the sense like there's a lot of moving pieces, and even if you like hone all those moving pieces to like 95% execution, the UA itself is still just one piece of the puzzle. There's still like, particularly in free to play, which is where most of my experience is, like you get the user in your app, congratulations, you've lost money. Like you paid to get that user in the app, and now you're in debt, and you have to figure out if you're going to get back out of debt. So the more that you can automate these like simple, dumb tasks, the more that you can get out of your silo of just being a growth marketer, interacting with the creative team, interacting with the product team, spending time with your UA colleagues, like brainstorming and figuring out like, what's hot right now, like what's an emerging channel, like what's the tactic you're using here. And we really enjoy anytime we get to just spend our time brainstorming and figuring out how we're going to improve our work or like solve a problem. That's much more fulfilling, I think, for anyone in the space than just like, okay, let me execute the same optimization task that I do every day from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Right. So I'm just curious here in the room, who here is still not so sure about UA automation? Like hesitant and trying? Anyone?
I'm still not sure.
You are? No, don't raise your hand. But I was just wondering, maybe if there's anyone here who's still hesitant about even like, messing with it, what are your like 3 steps maybe that this person should take in order to head towards UA automation?
Yeah, I think we touched on it quickly, but just to review, it's just like identify the problem, identify the data you need to solve it, and then like identify the means of execution, either through a tool you license or something you build internally.
Awesome.